The Lake Erie Grape Discovery Center is the official visitor center for the New York State Lake Erie Concord Grape Belt Heritage Area. Supporting and promoting the grape industry, visit us and learn about grape growing history in the Lake Erie region. Shop for grapey gifts, taste local wine in a Concord vineyard. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a beautiful Saturday morning. It's finally summertime, and I don't know about you, I am enjoying the beautiful weather. We got flowers popping up all over the place. Birds are going nuts. Max got his summer due. He looks good. He's been rolling around in the grass, but he got his hair all trimmed off, and he looks real good. And so he's happy because he was pretty warm the other day. I see people down at the beaches, and people are having music in the park. So it's a great time here in Chautauqua. For those of you that are returning to Chautauqua County, welcome back. We're so glad to have you here. Folks all along the lakes in Chautauqua Institution and your cottages, all of you that are coming back from all over the place, welcome home. We're glad to have you. Got a lot of interesting things to share with you, and as always, a great show in store for you. We're going to be talking about history here in Chautauqua County and museums and all kinds of really cool stuff. One of those things I enjoy talking about. Many people forget that if you have a question for our guest today or myself, you give us a call at 753-5225. There's the number right there. If you have an announcement, something you want to share with us, in the weeks to come, you hear the announcements every week, the things that we share. Twitter us, email us, go to our Facebook, give us a like. We'll keep up with you. Whatever. Give us your information, we'll share it, because we are your clearinghouse for Chautauqua County. So I also want to say good afternoon to our listeners in WRFA over at Jamestown at the Reg at 107.9, low power to the people, and the crew over there. So happy that we can share our shows with you every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And so hope you're having a good day and a good afternoon there. So today I have some things to share with you, but before I do that, I brought my trusty head protector here. I brought my riding helmet to remind myself and my teammates here, Randy Burt and Jeff Zook and Galen Zook. The four of us are riding in the ride for Roswell next week, And we're going to pre-record a show today, so you're going to be seeing it next week. So we won't be here in the body; we'll be here in spirit. And but we'll be. Where will we be about now, Randy? Somewhere in Canada, close to the falls. All right, he's promised me this. They've talked me into doing the 44-mile ride. I've been working hard. You've been working hard? Short answer. All right, I've been working hard. I'm gonna be towing him from time to time. I'll bring that rope I told you about. But anyways, Randy, Bert, and I are going to team up. We're going to do the 44-mile ride. I'm really excited. Jeff's going to do the 34-mile ride, and Galen, he's our hero. He's a Superman. He's going to do the 100-mile ride. Woo! I can't even imagine what that would feel like trying to walk after that. He's a man of steel. And we're going to be riding for Hollyloft. So last we know that the whole team is raised over $20,000. And, without getting on a soapbox, guys, cancer affects every family. I don't care who you are. Unless you've been living in a box somewhere, anybody that has family somewhere along the line, even if it's something extremely minor, we're affected with cancer in our lives, especially it seems like as we get older. But in my own particular family, we've had breast cancer, kidney, prostate, skin. A good friend of mine had lung cancer, and it goes on and on and on. So, I mean, it happens. But up in Roswell, they're doing great work, and every week it seems like something's coming out of there that they've got some new breakthroughs. So I'm pleased, for the first time anyways, for myself to be supporting this. A lot of times I've donated, but I don't even know how I got talked into this. I'm not sure, but anyways. So if you haven't had a chance to donate to a rider, it doesn't have to be one of us, but you can go to the Ride for Roswell site. You can look up my name, Randy's, Jeff's, Galen's, or anyone else that's from the area, and you can make a donation. It's real easy. Use your credit card, and it's immediately credited to the rider. And as I say, we've been raising a lot of money across the county. Okay, enough on that. So I hope you're having a great day, and we got some things to share with you. So let's go down to Jamestown to my good friends at Infinity. They want you to know that they have a new student orientation and intake session. Now listen, music, art, dance, and theater students of all levels are welcome to enroll in private and group lessons. The Infinity Visual and Performing Arts Center will hold a new student orientation and intake on Thursday, June 22. Please contact the Infinity Center at 664-0991 to register for a session and reserve your spot today. Students may also register online at www. I don't think I have to say that anymore. Forget that part. Infinity Performing Arts, all one word, .org, to be contacted for an orientation slot. Orientation sessions last approximately 30 minutes, including a tour of the facility of the center and opportunities to meet Infinity staff members and schedule lessons. Now, mention dance. I think I mentioned this last year. Last night, there was a few people from my hometown, Ripley. We were all at the Warner Theater, and our relatives, our children, our great-grandchildren, whoever it was, in my case, my granddaughter, they had a phenomenal dance recital there. And you think, I'm going to go to a dance recital, and you're going to see a bunch of little kids dancing. Well, you do see a bunch of little kids dancing, and then you see teenagers dancing, and they're pretty good. Then you see young adults dancing, and they're even better. And then you see the guys come out, and they all look like WWF wrestlers. They're huge guys, and these little petite women come zooming out. They jump in the air. The guys throw them in the air. They catch them. They balance them in one hand. I mean, it's like a human sculpture. It's unbelievable. So if you enjoy dance and the arts, this is a great start for your family member right there at Infinity. Coming up, something near and dear to my heart at Infinity is the 14th annual Local Music Showcase. And I'll basically tell you what, rather than read the whole thing. It's where a bunch of bands, usually about 50 different groups, soloists, duos, trios, bands, and so forth, we get together, and probably 12 to 15 different venues in downtown Jamestown host these groups. We donate our time, usually about an hour, and you pay like one money, $10 or something like that. They give you a wristband, and you go all over Jamestown listening to music, any kind you like. They have a little brochure that tells you the kinds of music that's being played. And on September 9th, starting at 6 o'clock, as I recall, you can enjoy a great night of music. And this is phenomenal stuff. So, and just in case you're a musician and you're interested in being part of it, give them a call at 664-0991 and join the group. Join us. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's go to Westfield down the road at the Grape Discovery Center. A lot going on today. First of all, before I tell you what the event is today, they're looking all the time for volunteers, especially now and into the fall seasons, to help with cutting grass, serving grape juice, helping out in the museum part of the place, and so forth. But the big news right now is today, and if you're watching this later on, it's going to be over, but today starting at noon, June 17th, from noon to 5, they're having their second annual Cruise In Chicken Barbecue and Fundraiser. Okay, that's out on Route 20. It used to be the Ford dealership, and it's between Ripley and Westfield. And if it were to rain, but I don't think it's supposed to. I think it's supposed to be pretty nice today, so it's going to take place today. They're going to have a cruise in by the Lakeshore Street Rod Association. If you have a car or another club, you're welcome to join. Dash plaques for the first 100 cars, award to the top 10 cars, chicken, barbecue, pulled pork, and a whole lot more. Southern Tier Distilling Company, they're going to have some spirit sampling. Wine from Lake Erie Wine Country, craft beer, cider, wine slushies, grape slushies, and a whole bunch more. And from noon to 3, there's going to be a group called The Freeze, and they're going to be providing music. And a guy at 3:30 named Doc Hamels will be playing till 5 o'clock. And I'm happy to do this. This will be the second time I'll have done it for this fundraiser. And my third time that I played at the Discovery Center, I actually helped open the Discovery Center when it had its very first grand opening. So I have a little bit of history there. And it's just a great facility. And if you go, not only can you see the cars and you have some good food, but you check out the center itself. It tells you all about the grape industry in Chautauqua County, and it's got a great room in back with the history of grapes and so forth. So it's a great day out. Take the kids. You can walk and it's free. Right? And so that's going on today. Let's see, what does this say here? Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. Now we're going to go up to Dunkirk. They're letting you know that they still have money available for a variety of grants throughout the year. They do have time frames, okay, so you can check it out on their website or contact them. And if you're a high school student or even in college, they do still have scholarships, a lot of them. And a lot of times people set these up in memory of someone, or they have a business and they want to promote people within their craft. And you'd be surprised that there's kids that don't apply because they don't think they're eligible or even know about this, or young adults. Check it out. They've got the money. So go to the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation and check them out on their website. All right. They also wanted me to announce that this coming Monday, they are having their annual meeting. And it's going to be at 4 p.m. The meeting is going to be held at the JCC Training and Conference Facility on Bennett Road in Dunkirk. And the highlights of 2016 will be reviewed, including the exciting activities that took place in celebration of the Foundation's 30th anniversary. Diane Hannum was on here and a few other folks. Last year, I think it was, they were kind of kicking off the anniversary of the group. And I had the opportunity to give a talk in Ripley about it, and I am a voting member of the foundation, so I'll be going to that meeting. But it's open to the public, and this is a great opportunity for you to learn more about it. Among the other businesses to be conducted that day, they're going to be electing new board members, voting members like myself. Following the business meeting, there will be the George B. Weaver Jr. Footprints Award, and it's going to be awarded to James and Marcia Marins of Fredonia, names that many of us know. The award honors those who have left footprints in the community for others to follow in the areas of philanthropy and service. Okay, and if you're interested, give them a call at 366-4892 to let them know you're coming. Let's go just down, literally just down the street. that is today. Okay, it's not too late. Today is the 17th, right? Fourth annual Ella Rankert Memorial Golf Tournament, and that's taking place right now as we speak over at the Chautauqua Golf Club. So just that's the other way. So if you're interested, check it out and get on over there. Okay, also this weekend, I know it's half over, but today it's going to go on the 35th Yasu Festival. It's a Greek festival for the community to enjoy. It's under the big tent. It's from 11 a.m. today to 11 p.m. held at St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. It's over at Mount Vernon Place and Francis Street in Jamestown. Rain or shine, live bouzouki music and dancing, church tours, traditional Greek food and pastries, boutiques. The platea for kids are going to be there. And of course, George's famous Greek hot dogs. I wonder if that's George Spanos. I bet it is. Sounds about right. Admission again is $2. Children under 12 is free. So if you like to try some new types of food, go to these events. There's the Italian festival. There's the Yasu festival. There's like over in Clymer, you've got the Dutch Tulip Festival. These are going on all the time here in Chautauqua County. So check it out. It should be a lot of fun. So the last day for that is today. So I encourage you to go. Now, here's one. I got to figure out what we're looking at here. Dwyer Happenings, the June edition. June 21st from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. is the Evening Coffee House at Tarmac 2 Cafe, Fairmont Avenue in Jamestown. June 26th, 1 p.m., bowling at Jamestown Bowling. June 27th, 6 p.m., evening bowling at Jamestown Bowling, Foote Avenue. I don't know what this means. What is Dwyer happen?
Service.
Pardon?
Veteran service.
Veteran services. Oh, all right. This is connected to when we had the veterans here. All right. And these are things that they encourage, it doesn't say here, okay, encourage folks to, veterans to get out and join each other. So let me try this again. So there's the Evening Coffee House at the Tarmac 2 Cafe on the 21st from 6:30 to 7:30. I'm going to do this again. June 26th, Veterans, 1 p.m. bowling, Jamestown Bowling Company, Foote Avenue. And June 27th, 6 p.m., there's evening bowling at Jamestown Bowling. As you know, our Blue Star Mom was here, and Miss Reedy, and she's trying to encourage folks that are veterans to get together. So that's what that's about. Okay, we're going to have to get a few more notes on that one. Okay, and coming up, mark your calendar, here's another fun one. The 53rd Fly-In Breakfast, the Dunkirk-Fredonia Rotary. That's the newly merged Dunkirk with Fredonia. They're all one Rotary now. They're having their fly-in on Sunday, July 9th at the Dunkirk Airport. Now listen, this starts at 8 a.m. Randy, this is just up your alley. All you can eat pancakes, eggs, sausage, coffee, and juice just for $7. Children under 12 is $4. All proceeds benefit local charities. The public's welcome. Free parking. Now listen, you can also get an airplane ride. They have a craft show, a famous basket raffle, door prizes, 50-50 raffle, a whole lot more. Sounds like a fun day. And I am a Rotarian, and I wanted you all to know that this was coming up because the monies from these programs support all kinds of projects here in Chautauqua County, and they do good work for all of us. Okay, and then the last thing I think I have here is another mark your calendar for July 29th, Christmas in July. The Resource Center is announcing that they're going to have this event coming up, and you can sign up for a table if you're a vendor for $25 for one table. Double space is $40, and if you are a vendor, they ask you to contribute an item for the Chinese auction. So this is going to be held July 29th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is going to be at the Resource Center's Administrative Office Building at 200 Dunham Avenue in Celeron. All money benefits Toys for Tots, helping, this is still a staggering, I know I say this every week, 2,400 children in Chautauqua County. That's a lot of people, a lot of kids that need something at that time of year. For more information for the Christmas in Jolly event, give Evelyn Wright Kegelmeyer a call at 661-1429. And I think that's all of my announcements. So let's take a break for a public service announcement, and we'll be right back.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over.
When you see lights,
vests,
Or reflectors.
Please, give us some room. Slow down and move over.
when you need us.
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Hey, we're back, and you are watching Chautauqua Sunrise. And remember, if you want to give us a call at 753-5225, because it's going to be a really, really interesting topic, please do so. I was thinking about our topic today about history and so forth, and I was thinking about how when I was raising my kiddos, all four of them, and trying to get them through school, we had to learn when Henry Hudson sailed into the Great Lakes area, and when Verrazano came in here, and Ponce de Leon, and all the years. And if you're a history teacher, I apologize, but it was so cut and dry back then. We're talking a long time ago now, but history doesn't have to be just a series of dates. It can be alive, and today we're going to do just that. I want to welcome Michelle Henry, who's the Chautauqua County historian. I got that right? Is that your real title?
That is.
Okay, because I make up titles sometimes here. And we're going to be talking about history in Chautauqua County. And I absolutely love to learn about history now. And I think it's because of things that I've done, like coin collecting and other things. I always wanted to be an archaeologist. That was one of the things I wanted to do. But so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're a survivor of the senior report in the years past. So this is your first time with us here on Chautauqua Sunrise. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So Michelle, we were talking a little bit about yourself, and I always like people to know a little bit about our guests. So tell us the thumbnail sketch about yourself.
Well, I feel like I have deep roots in Chautauqua County. 'Cause
Okay.
my family came really early. They were original purchasers from the Holland Land Company. So they came in the 1820s, and the other branch of my family came in the 1840s, and they never left. They didn't have that urge to go west. So this was as far west as they ever went. And they stayed here. So I didn't grow up in the county, but I spent every weekend here and just, a lot of time. My grandmother was a wonderful storyteller, and she used to tell me all about how things were here when she was a young girl and growing up. And so I think it gave me a sense of connection to the people and places here. So I went off to Penn State and studied archaeology, anthropology.
Oh, you're so
And
lucky.
It was wonderful. I loved it. And then I went to Arizona State to get my master's degree and earned a graduate certificate in museum studies because I really, felt that so much of our history is preserved in museum collections, and yet museums often don't get the recognition that they deserve. And so I came back to this area intending to get a job in a museum, and I got hired by the County Historical Society in Westfield. So I worked
in
there.
that John Wolfe world.
In the John Wolfe world.
That's hard to say, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I worked there for 8 years, and in the course of working there, I was coming up to the courthouse quite often to do research in the records at the courthouse. And the county clerk at that time asked me to help them establish a historical records program because they realized they had almost 200 years worth of history in their records, and they really hadn't taken a comprehensive approach to preserving it.
Bunch of boxes with labels on it.
In very strange places, in empty stairwells and in judges' bathrooms. And so I left the museum and came up to the courthouse to try to help preserve their history. So I love it. Every day is different. People contact me from all over the world asking for help.
Wow.
And it's fascinating because it helps me learn more about the history as well. And I always tell people, I'm not an expert. I can't answer every question that you ask me, but I can find the answer.
We'll point you in the direction.
Right, and so it gives me this wonderful opportunity to learn more about our history.
So, county historian is a real position. I mean, it's like part of government. Is it a government position? How does that work?
It is. In New York State, I think, is the only state that has a state law since 1911 that requires every municipality to appoint a historian. So every town, city, county has an appointed historian, and I serve at the pleasure of the county executive. Mark Thomas was the one to appoint me in 2000, and it's not a full-time position. I actually work at the county full-time as the records coordinator.
Oh.
So I do that full-time, and then the historian's job is something I do in addition to that, because there is a real connection to the historical records and the historian's position. So when they did all the courthouse renovations in 2006, they actually found room. So we have a very nice research room for the public, and that's where we continue to add material. And then we continue to process the historical records and digitize them. We're adding content to my website all the time. And so, when we're there for the public, whenever they want to come in and research something about the county's history.
No, people are listening, they're watching us right now. What would somebody research? Deeds or?
Absolutely. We have deeds and mortgages going back to 1811, the year that the county was established. We have all the naturalization records for the county from 1814 to 1972.
Naturalization being becoming a citizen.
Right,
Okay.
your citizenship documents. We have civil and Supreme Court records, so criminal records and civil records. And you can actually learn quite a bit about a subject from court records. And I'm actually helping somebody right now who's from away, who has a reason to be interested in the very first automobile fatality in Chautauqua County. And so we've been helping them examine the court records for those. So there's just, there's treasures hidden within the archives, and whenever somebody comes and asks us to research something or to help them research it, we uncover another little piece of information.
And I'm sure, I don't have to tell you this, but whether I'm visiting my dad up in Buffalo or I'm talking with my father-in-law in Ripley, I hear this all the time. I'll say, I visited somebody, and they'll say, oh, that's the old Jones place. And did you know? And then we go into great detail. Or I'll say, what was that? What's that big open space there that used to have a building? Oh, well, originally, and we here in America, we knock things down and we replace. In Europe, they preserve. So your job is so important to me because you have preserved at least the records of what was in that big space. Because I don't think we realize that we are standing, even here right now, I'm sure there was something really cool here at one time, under our feet, whether it was an Indian village or it was an original township or whatever, but we build on our ancestors' ground, and we don't even know the history of it. And I just find that sad and interesting at the same time.
I know, and it's a curious thing to me. Often people will contact me and they'll want to offer me a piece of a building that they've demolished. And so it's like they'll say, well, we kept the shutter off of this house, or we kept a window or a hinge from a door. And I just find it kind of ironic that they will demolish the structure, but then they feel compelled to save a piece of it to offer for posterity. So
do you actually keep it?
Well, I don't, because as the county historian, we're not a collecting agency. I work really closely with all the museums in the county. And so if somebody does contact me because they want to donate something somewhere, I try to help them figure out the most appropriate repository. So historians are not meant to collect. We're really meant to promote history, to help preserve it, to educate. So I try to encourage our local historians not to collect things, because most of them don't have large offices. They work out of their homes, and you don't want to start accumulating public collections in your personal property. So that's something we're always trying to help folks channel or funnel their collections to the right spot.
Yeah, and you go sometimes in the spring and you're driving down the road and you see garbage day, and sometimes you see stuff and you think, why are they throwing that away? I mean, like my wife would say it's junk, or why do we even care? Not that she doesn't care, but the point is sometimes people just see junk as junk. I see it as, wow, that's like an heirloom, or it's a big mirror, or I even wrote an article about how a door is part of the land that we live on, and we seem to just throw it away rather than repurpose things. And but we throw history away every day, don't we?
Yeah.
We as a nation, I guess you'd say.
Right, and I think people should think about what they have in their own houses pertaining to their own history, and think about how maybe they should take better care of it. Write the names of people on the back of your photographs.
My mom was famous for that.
Yeah, and if you have old family documents, maybe make sure you have a copy of them somewhere else, or it might not be important to you now, but someday, someone in your family would probably appreciate the fact that you took a little extra effort to preserve it.
Let me see if you agree with this little scenario I'm going to present to you. We as Americans came from other countries, as a rule, unless we're Native American, and they actually came from somewhere, but we won't go back that far, or thousands and thousands of years. But let's just say the European or Asian sweep into America through immigration and so forth. And they felt, those that came over, most of them wanted a new life, whatever it was, the life from their prior country. They basically wanted to cut ties. They wanted to be American. They wanted to be free and enjoy all the rights of our Constitution and so forth. And so a lot of their history was left behind, number one, or they brought their history, but like you say, it was lost. And what I'm finding is that the generation after them really didn't care because they knew the oral history, but it's the generation 1 or 2 after that are now saying, where did we come from? Who are we? Why do I look the way I look? Or for medical reasons, what's my medical history? Are you finding that to be a true thing?
Oh, absolutely. And now with the many ways that you can have your DNA tested, and people are using that in addition to historical records to trace their ancestry. And one thing that's interesting about Chautauqua County is that we were really on a major western migration path. So between the Great Lakes and then later the train lines, many people came into New York or to Canada and ended up coming through Chautauqua County.
My family. Yeah.
And we have incredible records, for people who now, have spent a couple generations west of here in Michigan, Wisconsin, California, Oregon, and now they want to find out the path that their ancestors took. And so we do get a lot of requests from folks who are looking for some component of that travel, and so we can find them in our census records.
Oh, all right. So they stay here for a while, and they
right, maybe even just long enough to be picked up in a census. We find them in the naturalization records because it was a 2-step process. So people had to file a declaration of intention, which meant it's my intention to become a citizen. And then a few years later, they could file their final papers. And you didn't have to do that in the same place. So we have those for some folks who then went farther west. And then also another way it ties into our county history, a lot of folks who came here, pretty much spent every penny to get here. And they came to this country with very little. And depending on the time of year that you came, if you came in the fall, chances are you were going to need some help to get through that first winter. And so our county poor farm, which had been in existence since the 1830s, offered aid to, I think, 64,000 immigrants.
64,000 people.
Over a course of 15 years.
That's a phenomenal number for back then.
It's probably one of the highest statistics compared to other counties in the state, and that is because the New York and Erie train line opened from New York City to Dunkirk. And so suddenly we had an immigrant train arriving every single day with a trainload of folks who may or may not have the resources to go farther west. And so our county poor farm offered them temporary assistance.
Now, where was that located? I think I've seen it. Is it down near Lake Chautauqua?
The poor farm was actually in DeWittville on Meadows Road. There's nothing there any longer.
Okay, somebody had pointed out to me, I guess that's where it used to be.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, large,
Is it
lovely
farmland and stuff there too?
Yes, it was a functioning farm, a poor farm. So people who were there worked in whatever capacity they were able to. They worked on the farm, worked in the kitchens, and then they left whenever they were able to support themselves. So our poor farm kept very detailed records on those immigrants because the state law said that we would get reimbursed from the commissioners of
So
immigration.
you had your records.
Which didn't work out as well as we would have hoped. Imagine that. But, right, and they were just overwhelmed with immigrants in the 1850s and 60s. But because of that, we have this great record that now people are using to find out, wonderful information.
Fascinating.
Because oftentimes, people got sick on that journey across the ocean. You can imagine being in the bowels of a ship for 6 weeks.
No, don't even say those words. I get seasick real easy.
Yeah, and so people came here and they were in poor health, and sometimes family members died, and they're buried at the poor farm. And these folks now are learning more than they ever knew about their ancestors.
Okay, so folks that are listening or watching right now, maybe I'm going to get you a lot of business here. If they're interested, how would they go about tapping these resources? Do they just show up at the county, or do they call ahead, or?
Well, it wouldn't hurt to call or email me so that we can make sure I'll be there and be available.
So what number would they call?
My direct phone number is 753-4857.
Okay.
And the email is henrym@co.chautauqua.ny.us. You can find me on the county government website because that's a tough one. Yeah.
So 753-4857.
Right.
Okay, last week I had the numbers all backwards here. So I'm working on my numbers. I jumble up everything here.
Well, so we're more than happy to help folks, and sometimes it's just a matter of telling them where else they need to go, because we have a lot of repositories in New York State. We have a lot of libraries that collect historical records, more than 23 historical societies, town governments, because in New York State, town governments actually hold a lot of vital records. So, and most people coming here from outside of the state don't understand that you really do need to make a lot of different contacts. But I try to direct them in the right spots and give as much assistance as I can.
So if they contact you, they say, we're going to come down next week on such and such time. What's the cost for that? Anything?
Nothing at all.
Nothing?
No, we're there. I mean, we're a public entity. We hold these records because we know that they have historical value, and I want people to use them.
Right.
I want to make them available.
I'm assuming if they make copies, they'll have to pay for their own copies.
Right, there's a copy fee. If somebody contacts me and wants us to do the research for them, we ask them to make a donation. And we use that money to buy more historical resources for my research library.
Super.
So we buy publications. and
So
things.
if we were to go down there today, actually it's just practically down the road from here, what would we see? Is it just a bunch of computers, or is there boxes, or how's it work?
Well,
I haven't been there.
you need to come and see me.
Obviously.
So I have a research room, and we have most of the county's historical publications. The county published histories, a lot of our community publications. If people want to donate a genealogical publication, we'll take that. I have cemetery records. Like I said, the naturalization records, we have a lot of things on microfilm.
Okay.
And then in the county clerk's office are all of the land records and the court records.
Okay.
And the historical ones I hold in the county archives, which is basically a warehouse in the sub-basement, which is not open to the public. But it looks just like on the TV shows when you see those cold case shows where they go into the huge room with boxes. We have over 13,000 cubic feet of documents that we hold for our county departments. So it's a lot of records. And we are...
And growing, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though we're digitizing a huge amount of information, there's still a lot of paper that's generated.
Yeah.
And all of the old records are still in paper because the costs to reformat them is substantial. So we do it with grant money. And we're in and out of those records all the time for people. So we will we'll make anything available that we can legally make available. Some things are sealed for 100 years, like divorce records.
Divorce records are sealed for 100 years?
And that's a New York State law.
I didn't know that.
But and after 100 years we can make those available, and sometimes people find information they've been searching for about a family situation.
It's funny you said that, because that just kind of sparked a little thought in my mind. Was when I was researching my family genealogy back to Europe, I was trying to get into some records of my grandfather, who was from Belgium. And as it turns out, they don't release any documents on a human there for 100 years. Oh. We couldn't find his birth certificate or anything. And as it turns out, by the time I got to it, it was within the time frame that was allowable. But they're really, really strict on those things. And so you really got to know the time frames and the rules before you start digging around, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why I always encourage people to call first or email me, because if it saves you a step, you know, if you take the time to travel here and then you're asking for something we can't provide, I feel bad about that. I mean,
yeah, and I think maybe just from my own personal experience, a word of advice is, if you are interested in, and see if you agree with this, if you're going to come visit you, come with a very pointed, clear-cut question. Instead of saying, where are we from?
yeah.
It should be, my grandfather's name was this, we came from here, and I would like to know this answer. Because I remember so many times people asking me this really broad question, and going like, we need to hone this way down to a pinpoint of information that you want, because you can't research a whole thing in just
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Well, we laugh about it because, every once in a while I'll get those emails that will say, can you tell me when my grandmother was born? And they don't give me a name.
Yeah.
And so we kind of joke that we're good, but we usually need a little bit more than that.
Right.
So yeah, approximate time period and any names, and sometimes with these folks that were coming, new arrivals, there were a lot of different spelling variations for their names.
Mm-hmm.
So we encourage them to let us know if they know of any other alternate spellings, and then we'll do what we can.
Also, see what your opinion is on this. What I found was, in many cases, the records were wrong. Because whatever the document I was looking at, it was done by somebody that was in a hurry, didn't know the information correctly, or, like you say, misspelled things. So you got to kind of corroborate with another document sometimes.
There's a lot of variation in information,
Mm-hmm.
because people couldn't understand what they were being told or what they were being asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like throughout the naturalization process also, that was the one time when you could legally change your name without doing a separate court action.
Oh.
So when you filed your declaration of intention, typically it's under the name that you arrived with.
All right.
When you filed your final papers, if you chose to Americanize that or change your name, you could do that, and that became your legal name.
Okay.
And so oftentimes it's close, but sometimes it isn't.
Right.
And so so we try to help people understand that there are changes. And the same with the census records. You don't know who answered the door and who gave the information. It may not be somebody who really knew, exactly someone's age, or they might not have known exactly where they were from. And it's also a lesson in world history, because in one census they might say they were Prussian, and the next they'll say they were German, and the next they might say Polish or Russian Polish. And it might all be the same place, but
the borders get
things were
changing.
changing in Europe at the time. So you really kind of, I always encourage people to kind of get a little context for the information they learn, because it'll help them understand why there might be variation.
We've always had this little bit of mystery in my family. My dad's mother, she's from Ireland. I mentioned earlier that she came through Canada and that. And she was one of these people that she didn't really lie, but she wouldn't tell you her real age. And I always thought she was pretty old. I mean, old. And I've looked at pictures and gone, she was old. And Dad watches the show, so you know what I'm talking about. And so on her death certificate, my uncle, I think, filled it out and said she was 84. And I'm going like, I don't know if that's right. That just doesn't seem right, because I look at people in their 80s, and I remember my grandmother in the condition she was. I just thought, I think she's older than that. Well, so forever we thought she passed away at 84. Well, lo and behold, I found this little piece of information out of the Irish census. You were talking about the census records, and I found my great-great-grandmother, Elizabeth, and her son, Fred, he was the youngest, and Mary, who was 21. It was in 1901, the census. Well, I started doing the math. I go, she was 10 years older than she reported. She died at 94.
It's a woman's prerogative, right?
A woman's prerogative. I go, gosh, But that also then, well, how old was she when she had the kids? And, and all those things, you start rolling back the history book on that, and it's so fascinating to put everything now into perspective, the time frame in that. Well, and then following along with that whole thing, so not only did she not tell everybody what her age was, but then my uncle had something misspelled, or she was in the wrong town or whatever. So we had to correct some of that for the family tradition and things like that. But he did the best he could because she told him whatever she wanted to know.
We've noticed in the census records, because there's a federal census every year that ends in a 0 and a state census every year that ends in a 5. So you can track your families in New York State in 5-year increments. And it's quite common that men aged 5 years between censuses, but women didn't. So...
Absolutely true.
And that's why it is good to look at...
She skipped 2 censuses. Or censi, whatever it is.
It is good to get multiple records, because it does give you a little average, maybe.
Oh, I'm still laughing about my grandmother. She was a character. So anyways, so you brought a brochure today, and so tell us a little bit about this. I'm going to hold this up, Randy, if you want to get a shot of this. And this is really a very nice brochure.
Yeah, during the county's bicentennial in 2011, we decided to publish a brochure for all of the historical societies in the county, because we have so many. Most of our communities have their own historical society. And of course, as soon as we published it in 2011, we realized that some folks did not get included. And so last year we republished it. We've added more groups to it.
Look at all that.
And it's a remarkable number of local groups, and most of them are all volunteer. They are collecting wonderful bits of information and artifacts related to their communities, and they work so hard at what they do, and they're passionate about it. And I just would love to encourage folks to just take an opportunity to pick up one of these brochures. They're in all of our tourism racks throughout the county, and go visit a museum or two on a weekend. And I think you'll be impressed by what they're doing, and they would love to have more support and more visitors.
So how many are in Chautauqua County? I mean, I'm looking at 20-something?
Yeah, I think there are 23 anyway, and then there's actually 2 wonderful groups that did not get included in this brochure, and that's the Cherry Creek Museum and also the Bust-Eye Mill. So I bet you a lot of your listeners have been to the mill.
Oh, I've been to the mill,
which is just fabulous. And they're not included in that. We will be sure to include them next time we do it. So there's even more than what's shown in the brochure. But their hours are listed, and if they have a website, their website. And
this is great.
It is wonderful. I did this in conjunction with the County Historical Society. I work really closely with them on a lot of different projects, and they're trying to help promote these groups by putting their events up on their website. And we're co-sponsoring some programs together this year with a couple of these groups. So it's a wonderful community, the history community, and they're all people who are really passionate and interested and hard workers.
Okay, now, for instance, I'm looking at this and I see Fluvanna and Lilydale and so on, but I don't see Ripley. So Ripley, to my knowledge, doesn't have its own museum, and that's fine because a lot of your small towns don't. So how would somebody find out information about Ripley, or I don't know if Brockton's in here or not, or Brockton, or Chicken Tavern, Corners, or all those little townships?
Well, the Ripley does have a municipal historian, and so they could contact that person.
Probably through the town clerk to get started, right?
Right. So you could call the town clerk. The library in Ripley does have some of the historical records from the previous historian, and who was wonderful. Marie McCutcheon and Virginia Barton were great historians in Ripley, and the current historian has their records.
Okay.
And I kind of have a good feel for who's active, and so if somebody were to call me and they were looking for a family in Ripley, I would let them know which records I had in my facility, and then whether they should contact the town clerk or the historian or the library.
So we don't have to have a museum for all the little towns in Chautauqua County. There's somebody, as you said, everybody's appointed as a historian for every township.
Correct.
and you are the conduit to get to all those people.
Yeah, we try to meet periodically and do programming if it makes sense. We did the big history fair last year, which was a very large event at the Chautauqua Suites. We had over 50 organizations there who have some part of their mission that involves the preservation of our history. So there's a lot of people preserving history in Chautauqua County.
You know, I was just thinking here, we talked about the Grape Discovery Center. Grape Discovery Center is really a museum.
Yes, it is.
In its own right.
Yes.
And I think I was sharing with Christina when she was on the show not long ago. Barb and I were on a Midwest tour of the country, states we hadn't been to, and we ended up at the Potato Museum in Idaho. And you might say, what in the world could be so exciting about the Potato Museum? It was fascinating because I drew parallels to what the Grape Discovery Center has and what was there, and it's the machinery, it's the culture, the product line, the economic development and how it sustains the community and things like that. And we all have that, and we're proud of it. And so it's so cool to see these things.
Yeah, and you're right. We have that with the grapes. Barcelona, the fishing connection is big, and so there's going to be a display at the lighthouse on the fishing industry at Barcelona and our lighthouses. One of the programs we're doing this summer that I wanted to let folks know about.
Yes, please do.
Is has to do with cheese.
Cheese.
And
one of my favorite food groups.
Oh, well, isn't it?
God, I could eat cheese every meal.
I think there's a gene that must be inherited, a cheese gene. Because my grandfather, my mother's father, loved cheese. He ate the strongest, most foul-smelling Limburger
I'm not there.
cheese.
I just like the milder ones.
Yeah, and I have a son who's obviously inherited that gene because that's his favorite food in the world is cheese. But the county's production of cheese throughout its history was phenomenal. We had cheese factories in almost every single one of our towns. We were one of the largest cheese producers in New York State, and we had a reputation for making really good cheese. And so it occurred to us that we really don't have a lot of, nobody's really done a lot of research on cheese as
I
a
would not
subject
have thought that.
Yeah, so I don't know why it occurred to us this year when we were at the County Historical Society talking about programming for 2017. And I had been reading in one of the state censuses, they did agricultural statistics. And the amount of cheese that we had produced, I think it was in 1855, was over 1 million pounds of cheese produced in Chautauqua
In
County.
1850?
Yeah, and at that time it was a home industry. So that was work being done on the family farm, primarily by women, which I just think is remarkable. It was a big statistic. And then the very first cheese factory in New York State was established in 1851, and our first cheese factory was in 1861, and it completely changed kind of the home dynamics, because almost immediately cheese production was taken from the family farm and started becoming a factory industry. So, it was necessary. Farmers needed a way to dispose of their milk, and that needed to be preserved, and cheese is an excellent way to do that.
Yeah.
So, we're having a program on August 16th at Liberty Winery, because we thought if we were going to talk about cheese, we should probably include some wine to go with it. So
we call it a wine pairing.
that's exactly what it is.
I learned that term a couple years ago, wine pairings.
So we are having a cheese and wine pairing at Liberty Winery.
Now, where's Liberty Winery?
It is on Route 20 in the town of Sheridan.
Okay, it is up that way. I was thinking
Yes.
it was above Westfield.
Yeah, and we try to move our programs around the county to get to interact with different groups, and so the Sheridan Historical Society is co-sponsoring it with us, and they actually had a cheese factory on Route 20, not far from where we're going to be meeting. So it's not there any longer, but it's kind of fun. We have some wonderful photos of it that we're going to be showing. So it's at 6:30. That's a Wednesday night at Liberty, and you can come to the program, and it's free of charge, and you don't have to take part in the wine and cheese pairings. But if you want to, there'll be a $5 fee,
Sure.
which is half price,
Yeah.
to sample some wine and cheese. And then throughout the course of the evening, we're going to just be sharing some historical cheese facts from the county.
Okay, I have to share this because I watched this on TV the other night, and this has nothing to do with Chautauqua County, but it does have, it speaks to the economy. All right? I think it was 2010, somewhere in Italy, there was an earthquake. I did not know this. And 600,000 wheels of Parmesan cheese were damaged.
Yeah.
And it almost put that whole region into bankruptcy. And I thought, how is it possible that in one particular product could do that? But it really underpins, like the grape industry here. If we were to have, I don't know, some boll weevil come in and eat up all the grapes, it would just put us in dire straits. And so when you have things like the cheese industry, it sustains people, it pays bills, it puts people to work. So what an interesting story that'll be.
I think so too. And I think when you hear about the amount that we were making, it really is remarkable. These 60-pound cheese wheels were coming out of these factories, dozens a day, if not hundreds a day at some of the factories. And then, of course, that created a market. There was, there were men who just went from community to community to buy the cheese and then distribute it across the state. So, it was a huge factor in our local economy.
So what towns would you, were the main towns in the area for cheese?
Well, the first factory was in Arkwright.
Okay.
And then...
That's a little out of the way.
Yeah, a man who was a real character. He's been very fun to do research on, was Asahel Burnham. And he used his cheese fortune to invest in racehorses. And he became known as the Cheese King. And he actually used cheese on his jerseys, and his jockeys weren't happy about it because they didn't like being referred to as the cheese team. But and then right after he opened the one in Arkwright, he opened one in Sinclairville, which was the largest one in the county at the time. Okay. And then, like I said, most of our communities had at least one. Good. Hanover had a lot. Westfield had some. Harmony had quite a few. So they were all over the place.
And there's still a few places that still make cheese. There's one right here that used to be the Book Nook, or
right. There's a relatively new creamery in the county, Reverie Creamery. Right. So it's kind of become an artisan craft again.
Then across the lake, wasn't it the Cheese House, or is that still functioning?
Well, they don't make it there anymore, but they still sell it, and they're actually celebrating their 90th year this year.
Wow.
So we do have some folks who are still preserving that legacy, which is kind of neat. And most of those buildings are gone. A lot of them, people were very industrious. And in the 1920s, when the cheese industry waned here, a lot of those factories were demolished and the wood was used for other purposes. Wow. So they didn't just tear them down.
So there you go. What I was saying is, you could be right now we could be standing on what used to be a cheese factory for all we know, because they kept repurposing things. Oh, that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Michelle, we're getting down to about a minute and a half or so. So how about one more time where this is going to be, and we'll make sure we get that out for you.
Sure. It's at Liberty Winery, which is on Route 20 in the town of Sheridan, on August 16th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. And $5 if they choose to partake in the cheese pairing, the wine pairing with the cheeses.
Right.
And certain wines go with certain cheeses they sell me. And
so we'll learn more about that that night.
And then as far as what would you like people to know about your offices? Because you actually have like 2 hats. So how about that?
Right. Well, feel free to give me a call anytime or email me. I'm happy to try to help you with whatever questions you have. And then also visit my website, because we have a wonderful historic structure database that's there. You can learn a lot about 19th century buildings in the county, and information on the Underground Railroad. All kinds of articles about county history are being posted there regularly. So it really has a lot of information.
Who's the most famous person that comes to Chautauqua County, American?
Come to or from?
No, through.
Oh, boy.
Lafayette was through here, I think, right?
Lafayette, yeah. There's so much, people are so fascinated with Abraham Lincoln. He was a big visitor. We've had lots of presidents come to the institution. Horace Greeley came, was from this area. William Jennings Bryan. There's been,
did Washington sleep here?
No, he didn't.
He never came through here?
No, I don't believe he did. Susan B. Anthony.
Right.
One of her earliest campaigns for suffrage was here at the courthouse.
And we're going to be talking about that later in the summer, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've run out of time, they tell me. So Michelle Henry, Chautauqua County historian, thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you.
I learn a lot all the time when you folks come here. So guys, Michelle's going to be back later, I think in August, and we're going to be talking about women's suffrage. So hope you have a great weekend, and us guys are getting ready for the Ride for Roswell, so please don't forget to donate, and we'll see you all next week, but it's going to be pre-recorded right here in Chautauqua Sunrise. Take care, enjoy the sun, and use the sunscreen. Bye now.